Howdy, Possum Patty here. It's May 15th and I'm nature journaling. And look at this perfect blue sky. Not a cloud in it. So today's adventure is all about a cloud report, an investigation into the ferns. The first fern that I went to look at, I believe, is going to be the cinnamon fern. And the fertile frond is the part of the plant that produces the spores for reproduction. Doing a little fern check here, and this looks like it may be a cinnamon fern because there's two different kinds of fronds unfurling. I believe this frond is going to be the sterile frond. And this one is going to be the fertile frond. And cinnamon ferns do come out quite early. But you can see the difference between these two fronds. The second fern that I went to look at is the marsh fern. I mistakenly thought that the marsh fern was related to these two, the cinnamon fern and the royal fern. But I was mistaken. It's not an osmunda. It's a Thalipteris palustris. And palustris means of the marsh, and that's the marsh fern. Now I think that these are going to be the marsh ferns because they're behaving quite differently than those cinnamon ferns. And it looks like they've got the spores already forming on the little leaflets. So I bet you these are going to be the marsh ferns. I did learn that the marsh fern is the only plant that is a host for the marsh fern moth. So I have to be investigating the marsh fern moth and see what that looks like, so I see if I can find it. And then I found a little patch of hay-scented ferns. Now I think this is a little patch of the hay-scented ferns. I think this is what they look like when they first start coming up. What I learned about the hay-scented ferns was that they are not browsed by deer. And when the forest floor becomes covered with these hay-scented ferns, they actually restrict the growth of new tree seedlings. And the last fern I went to check on was the royal fern. The old name for the royal fern, now this is the American royal fern, was Osmunda regalis. But according to recent DNA studies, they've changed the American royal fern to a separate category, and it's a different species, Osmunda spectabilis. And spectabilis means outstanding or worthy of looking at. And these royal ferns are certainly worthy of looking at. The very early clouds were nimbostratus, and this is their symbol. And last night there was a steady rain, but it was only about 2/10 of an inch. Later on in the morning it started to clear up, and there were some very high cirrus clouds, and cirrus clouds are made out of ice crystals. And then there were some mid-level cumulus clouds that were quite pretty. But by afternoon, it was a beautiful, absolutely clear blue sky, and this symbol is for no cloud cover. And my very last find for today is the tiniest pansy that I've ever seen, and I call it a fairy flower. Thanks for coming along today and learning about some ferns. Bye-bye.